Hi, my name is Gurnik Chahal and this is Mobile Web Development Assessment 1. As you can see, this is the button interactions, the first application, and we've created 5 buttons in each button corresponding to where the location is, so top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, and the center. And as you can see, we've added a background here in the application and color coded the corners and a separate color for the center, making it more appealing to the user. And over here we can see in the main activity Java, we've created find view by IDs to link the 2 buttons. So the button left here can find the button over here, and similarly for each location on each button, even the center. And then we've set on-click listeners so it can see and it can execute the on-click method, which is down here, which will show a toast message for a short amount of time corresponding to the message left in the toast. And so when the button is clicked, if you can just when we run the application, it'll take a while to launch. Then when the button is clicked, a toast message corresponding to its location will appear. So top left, top right, the center, bottom left, and then bottom right. This is for the second application for the radio buttons and spinners. As you can see, there's a radio group with 3 radio buttons inside. They have Chelsea, Man United, and Arsenal radio buttons. These are football teams corresponding over here. And there's spinners. This will just be a drop-down menu, and the players will appear which the user wants to select. There's a submit button over here. There's a text view which will update depending on which team and player the user has selected, and just a simple text view telling the user to select a team and player. As you can see, they're all color coordinated. They're all color coordinated for the team's colors as well. The submit button and the fonts are all changed. The backgrounds changed to have more of a football base and a football theme going on. Then if we go over to the Java activity, as you can see, starting here, there's radio buttons. There's a radio group, player, spinner, submit button, and results text views all initialized over here. We've set up an empty player spinner just when there's nothing selected and as a base, and then there's a radio button check and updates. As if one of these radio buttons is clicked, it will update and it'll check the radio button and update the spinner on which information it needs. This is for the submit button listener, so it'll just find out when the submit button is clicked. This is for the actual player spinner and the information that it needs inside, and when it's clicked and how long it's going to be there for. And as you can see, the information with the players inside for each team, with Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, and 3 players inside of that. This bit of code will update the player spinner depending on which team is selected, of course. And then when submit is clicked, the text view will also be updated from which team and player is selected. And if we run the application, we can give an example of how this will work. Out here we can give an example. So when Chelsea's clicked, we can select a player, just Thiago Silva, and we can submit it and it will come up as selected Chelsea Thiago Silva, so it knows to each player. Once the team is clicked, the first player and the spinner will just appear there, and we can just submit that. Or we can change it to Marcus Rashford. Arsenal also works. You can change it to Declan Rice, and it will come up as the team selected. And that's what happens. This is for the application 3, a catalog. As you can see, we start with a horizontal scroll view. This is just allowing the user to scroll through these fighters, as I've done it UFC based. There's a linear layout used out here. This whole thing is actually constraint layout, and there's a linear layout used in between just for the buttons. And then there's 4 buttons, each for different fighters. There's GSP, John Jones, Conor McGregor, and Amanda Nunes fighters, which you can scroll through. And then there's just a text view just saying select your fighter, and of course a background just for a better aesthetic. And if we go over to the Java file, we can see that there's 4 different buttons, of course, for each fighter. And these are, in an onCreate method, is just linking the find view by ID, each button to each XML file. So the GSP button to the GSP button over here, we'll just link it. And then with an onClick listener set, so it knows it will execute the onClick method, which will open activity GSP. And then if you come down here, you can see it passes the intent and it will open the activity GSP.class, which should be this one. And this is just a simple layout of the fighter's photo, their name, their record, and some information about them. That is all just set up here, and a go back button, which is here, which we can see is set up over here. So it has its find view by ID, so it can link to this one. And then, of course, it has its intent and its intent to go back to the main activity, which is here. So go back to the home page, and it'll allow the user to select another fighter. This is done for every single fighter. So if you could split, as you can see, it's done here, and then the go back button is set up here. Same with Conor McGregor and then Amanda Nunes as well. And if I just run that application, okay, there we go, we've got that up, and then we can scroll through. You can select each fighter. We can go into GSP, comes up with his information. You click the go back button, click on John Jones, comes up with his information, click the back button. Sometimes the app's not working. I'm not sure how to fix that. That's one of the errors that it runs into, but it's nothing to do with the code there, as you can see. Conor go back, and then Amanda Nunes, and go back. So that's the app for the catalog, and it's quite simple, it's quite elegant, and it's customized to my MMA. This is for the application. For the login screen, as you can see, this is just a simple login screen with an edit text here for the username, and edit text for the password, a button for the login, so when you finish entering your username and password, and then just a simple text for you telling the user to enter the username and password. As you can see, this is all in a constraint layout. It's all giving constraints attached to one another. And if you go into the main activity Java, we can see that there's 2 edit text, a button, and it also tracks the login attempts. Of course, it starts with 0. And then we have the find view by IDs, which initialize the edit text and buttons to over here for the username, password, and the login button. And over here, an on-click listener set for the login button. So when clicked, it will check the checks and the attempts. It'll go through these methods. And then the first one would be the checks. This is just to check if the user name and password is 4 characters. If it is, it will go on to the next one, and if not, it'll come up with a toast message saying the username and password must be 4 characters long. And then when that's done, it'll go into the next one, which is the attempts. If he's got the username and password correct, which is admin, it will pass intent and it will go into the next activity, which is the correct activity. This is for when the password username is correct. It will come over here, which is just a simple welcome admin. And it also contains a go back button, so you can go back to the home page, which is initialized over here. So it will go open main and it will go back to the main activity. But if the username and password is wrong, it will come over here and it will display incorrect attempts left. So it's incorrect, and the amount of attempts you have left, it'll be 3 minus the amount of attempts you've already taken, which is counted up over there, and it will come up as a toast message. And if you've had more than 3 attempts, it will tell you that you've reached your maximum attempts and your application is now closing, and it will finish affinity, which means it will basically shut the application down. And then if I just run the application, you can see that if we put something that has less than 2 letters and we click login, username and password must be at least 4 characters long, it will pop up with, and it will also tell you your incorrect methods. And then if you just put the wrong username and password in, click login again, incorrect attempts left 1, and then, oh, it's gone back to the last one. And then it'll kick you off the app if you've done it too many times. And if I just rerun the app, and I click, and I write admin as the username and admin as the password, and then I click login, it'll take me to the welcome admin page, and then I can just go back and I'll be back here. So that's it for the application 3. This is for question 5, the calculator of chain operations. As you can see, we start in the XML file with a grid layout. This just makes it easier to add all the buttons next to each other and in like a nice clean way. As you can see, there's a text view. This is the input text. This is where when you click a button, it'll come up here. Click an operation, it'll come up here. And there is actually another output text which is hidden, which you can't see. This will just store the information. I couldn't get it to work correctly, so I just hid it, and it just stores the information in case you want to do another operation. When you press clear, it should all be cleared anyway, and this wasn't that necessary to show. And when you click equals, it will just show up in this input text area. There's a different button for each number and each operation. The operations are in different colors. The clear is in a different color, and the equal sign is a different color. This is just for a better user experience, a clearer user experience. And there's of course a background. When you actually play the app, the background actually lines up with the numbers and the text. Then if we go over to the main activity, we can see that there's an input text view, output text view, and there's private strings for input, output, and new output. And there's also buttons here for every single button, from all the numbers to all the operations, the clear, the decimal, and the equals. And down here you can see that for the input and output text is find view by IDs, which links them to over here, and same with every single button, from the numbers to the operations, the equals to everything. They all got find view by IDs. And then there's a on button clicked. This is just for cases as a switch operation which handles cases and updates the text view. So if the clear, it will update the text view to that, to just nothing. If there's a multiplication, it will update the text view to show multiplication. Show the equals, it will show the equal sign, and it'll do the solve operation, which is down here. We'll get into that in a bit. And then the null and all the other operations of adding, dividing, and minusing. And then there's a solve operation. This evaluates the string input to perform mathematical operations. The input can, handle all operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division operations. And then it will output it to the text view, and it will show just the text, and it will show the output of the numbers that you've selected and the operations. So if I go to run that application, you can see that it will all work. Now the app has launched. As you can see, it can do operations 6 times 6. It can just continue doing them. It even comes up with decimals, just go a bit off screen. Maybe that could be an improvement that can be made. And when you clear it, as you can see, it clears everything. And with the example in the question that you wanted us to do, it's 55 plus 44 minus 22 times 2. That comes up with this, so it can handle all operations that it wants. It can clear them. It can do decimal operations. And that's it for the calculator. Thank you very much for listening to my assignment.